Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I am a comic artist and film enthusiast. I haven't drawn any art. You know I'm going to draw art at the end of the season. I'd like to enthuse about some film. Today we're talking about Agatha All Along, episodes 5 and 6. Okay, so little disclaimer, I missed last week's episode. I saw it, but I missed doing the video on last week's episode. And I think that ended up actually working out really well in my favor because my review for that episode would have been not super high. My thoughts at the end of episode 5 were that we got to a really interesting and cool place, what with Billy having his, Maximoff crown and all his cool superpowers and all that stuff. A lot of it felt like they had a good idea for where they wanted to get to, but didn't quite know how to get there. So we come to this week's episode, and I'm a little bit on thin ice with the show. Not that I think it's going to be bad or anything, but up to episode 5, I was 100% on board with this show. Then episode 5 really kind of made me question whether or not they knew what they were doing. Is this going to be another show that seems really good at the start and then completely fumbles the end? Secret Invasion. But I just want to get this out of the way. Episode 6 turned me back around. Go back and reframe the entire show in a really funny and intriguing way, all based around Billy Kaplan or I guess spoilers for the show if you haven't watched it, but if you have not watched the show and you're watching a review for episodes 5 and 6 and you're still worried about spoilers, I don't know what to tell you. But we have official confirmation. That's Billy Maximoff, baby. That's Wiccan. It's interesting because it's not surprising that we got to that point in the show. Again, if you're a comics fan, you knew this was coming. They announced, hey, we cast Joe Locke to be random teen in Agatha All Along, and literally all of us were like, cool, so he's Billy? And Marvel was like, nah, he could be anybody, man. Who knows? He's teen. He's teen. And we were like, yeah. So he's Billy. So none of our minds are completely blown that he's Billy Kaplan and or Maximoff. What is surprising to me is that we reached that point in the show with 3 more episodes to go. I was expecting that to be like one of the final reveals of the show. I thought end of the season, we were going to get this big, huge swell of music and he was going to be like, I'm Billy Maximoff, actually. And we were all going to be like, yeah, no shit, dog. I was more than prepared for this to be a power broker situation, but instead of that, they just kind of knew we were going to get to that point and revealed it early, and that makes me so much more curious for what we're getting for the rest of this show. As far as episode 6 specifically goes, a couple of things that I didn't think worked totally well. It's still a little bit jumbled, just like episode 5 was. It kind of jumps around, although I will say that makes more sense because it's sort of a non-linear story. This episode is kind of like the end of The Sixth Sense, where you go back through and watch everything but from a different perspective, but for like an hour. Otherwise, things that don't work, there weren't any major effects or monsters. If you were looking for this to be a horror episode, it's really not. Kind of, although I guess in a sense it is, because it's like kid dies and something else comes back, but I mean, I would say that's stretching it. Weirdly, that doesn't bother me. You'd think that it might because I've been touting this show as Marvel's attempt at horror. But I think this episode wonderfully introduces us to the character of William Kaplan, who dies. Bummer for that guy. And then Billy, the character that we know and is reintroduced in this really interesting way, re-inhabiting this body, trying to figure out who he is, where he comes from. That's just a really engaging mystery inside of a really engaging mystery show, which leads me to things that I think do work extremely well about this episode. Joe Locke destroys this episode. Up to this point, I was not 100% sold on this character. I liked a lot of what he was bringing. He was charming and fun. I just thought he was a little bit too flighty and happy, which we were supposed to feel, and that's pretty cool. Love that it felt fake just enough that I was like not sure what to feel about his character, and now that he's revealed what's actually going on, that fakeness fits so much better. I also absolutely adore what Catherine Hahn is doing with this show. It was so much fun to watch the interrogation cop scene, but from the perspective of someone outside it. Love the idea that in her mind, she's bringing this natural, authentic accent, and then she's just talking like, whoa, we gotta go get him. He's hilarious, and I'm honestly shocked that there's such a through line to this show. Maybe it's just because the last few Marvel shows have felt pretty disjointed. Even Loki, which had a good solid through line and was a really incredible show, was disjointed just by nature of what it was. I was so prepared for this to feel like some random, fun, goofy little episodes, and instead it's just a really engaging mystery that I think is so much fun. I'm also totally blown away by how much it connects to WandaVision. The fact that we got to see some of those events from a different perspective, not to mention Evan Peters coming back as Ralph Boner, or whatever his actual name is. It also plays really well on some of the themes and ideas that the show's been bringing up, that being that Wanda kind of ruined an entire town and their psyche. So yeah, those are my thoughts on episodes 5 and 6. I think this show is an absolute blast. I am loving every second of it. I'm fully engaged and invested in the characters. I haven't been quite this invested in a Marvel show, I guess since Loki, which was maybe the last show. I like Marvel very much. I've been engaged in this show like this, in this way, probably since WandaVision. So I'm very excited to see where we go from here. I'm also extremely curious what is going to happen in those last 3 episodes, because 3's a lot of episodes. It's going to take us to John's Theory Corner, but before we do that, I want to take a word from our sponsors. We have 2 sponsors this week, neither of which are actually sponsoring me. First, my free comic, Edge of Bordertown. It is on my website, johnbonart.com. Just a personal note, I just finished writing chapter 5, and it's so good, you guys. It's so incredible. I cannot wait to show you. So if you haven't read my comic yet and you're into comic book stuff, which you seem to be because you're watching this very random deep cut video on a comic book show, please go check out my comic, Edge of Bordertown. Like I said, it is 100% free and it always will be on my website, johnbonart.com. Sponsor number 2 is my podcast. That's right, I'm multifaceted as hell. I have a podcast with 2 of my best friends, Lincoln and Preston, and we talk about bad movies. We punish each other by making each other watch bad movies and discuss them. Not breaking a lot of new ground, 3 white guys talking about bad movies, but it is a fun time. I think we make a good thing that I'm very proud of, so if you want to check that out, I would really appreciate it. That is called MPRPH, or the Motion Picture Retribution Power Hour. And I do these little animatics, so enjoy one of those in the middle of this video, just as a little break.
Dr. Doom is like someone described the Bond villain and then took a shot of Coke and then finished describing it. It was like, yeah. Okay, so he's a ruler of a like functional European country. Oh, sweet. He is incredibly wealthy. Great. He has intricate plans and a technical genius to execute them. Sweet. And then he's just like,
horribly scarred.
And he's got a suit made of metal.
And he wears a green cape.
And he's
got magic. Welcome to John's Theory Corner. The closer we get to the end of this series, the less theories I'm going to be able to have, because it's starting to take shape, so we know what's sort of going to happen. My guess is, I still think that Aubrey Plaza is death. I would be shocked if she wasn't. Just they've been really telegraphing that, making it pretty clear. It does seem like we're doing a Wizard of Oz type deal, where there's going to be some guy at the end of the road and some big decision has to be made. I'm not entirely sure, because up to this point, I kind of thought that the big decision was going to be Agatha's and that she was going to have to decide to either lose power or take less power in return for her coven. Now that Billy's here looking for Tommy, I don't know. I guess, okay, here's my big theory, I guess, for the week. I don't think we're going to get Tommy at the end of this series. I don't think Billy's going to get what he wants, because a pretty major Young Avengers storyline is them trying to find Tommy and figure out what's going on with that. And it sure seems like we're getting toward Young Avengers. We're getting little tie-ins and setups for the Young Avengers. At the end of the Marvels, Kamala Khan goes and sees Kate Bishop and does like a little Nick Fury thing, and it's adorable and wonderful, and we all loved that. Everybody loved that movie. I don't want to hear otherwise. It was a great time. Not to mention the fact that we got Scar, who I assume would fill in for Hulkling, although Billy's got a boyfriend. We don't know that that's not a shape-shifting Skrull that could be named Hulkling at some point. We're getting the Ironheart show, who I assume will show up in this. It just seems like everything is gearing toward that. Which, by the way, I was gonna make one of my called shots videos, but I think I'm gonna not, just because it's so much work for a thing that hasn't even been announced yet. But I'll call a shot here and now. If they do make a Young Avengers thing, I think it would be pretty kick-ass if it was them versus Kang. I think that would close out the Kang storyline pretty well, in a way that's definitely lessened. Cassie already has an interaction with Kang. She's already got a thing going there. It wouldn't have to be like a full Avengers storyline, which they're obviously not doing because they're doing Doomsday. I think it just makes a lot more sense, and it would be a really interesting thing. Kang is already connected to the Young Avengers in multiple directions, and I think it would work really well if he continued to be connected to the Young Avengers. Also, it could tie really easily into like a Fantastic Four type thing if you wanted it to. As far as what I would hope Young Avengers would be, and that's not really the point of this video, but as far as what I would hope a Young Avengers would be, at this point, I kind of feel like a show would be pretty fun. I just don't see them getting a movie as much as I would love it to be a movie. I think with Thunderbolts, That's already its own thing, kind of starting a new thing, which I've got some thoughts on, some theories on, but that's not the point of this video for sure. We're already getting Fantastic Four, and then we have another Avengers. So we've got a lot of theatrical teams going, and all of the Young Avengers characters, almost all of the Young Avengers characters, I guess except Cassie Lang, they all start in shows, and so it would make sense to do a Young Avengers show. I think that would be a blast. I would tune into that for sure. But I would, I'd also watch a movie. I'd watch anything Marvel makes. I think I've made that extremely clear. But the point being, if they do a Young Avengers thing, I think you could very easily tie in Billy looking for Tommy. Maybe that has some connection to Kang. But that is my theory. I don't think Billy's gonna get what he wants at the end of this series. I think it's gonna lead into another thing. Otherwise, at this point, I'm fairly confident that we're gonna see Mephisto. I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't. Then again, I was pretty surprised that we didn't at the end of WandaVision. So, fool me once, right? And that's about all I have as far as theories go. I'm just loving the show. I'm so excited to see where they go. I just want to watch the next 3 episodes. 2 episodes? 3 episodes? I think there's 3 episodes left. Whatever number of episodes, I can't wait to watch it, and I will see you next week. Sorry I missed a week. I promise I'll see you. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out this channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, movies based on comics, based on TV shows, sewing machines, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to review next, or do none of those things because I am not your dad. Hey, what's up? Whoa.